This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Home Alone booby traps, midnight affairs at the office, and stuntmen and stunt sheep. All that and more as we watch Season 7, Episode 14 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello, cousin listener, and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Imran. Joining me every week, my sister, Sophia. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going, C-Star?
It's okay. I've been having trouble writing jokes because I cannot find my favorite joke writing pen.
Oh,
It's missing.
Now, are you
I cannot write these jokes.
do you use the pen, or do you just need the pen sitting there in front of you as your muse?
It's more about fidgeting with the pen.
The clicky clackies.
Yes,
And,
the clicky clack.
is it one of those multicolor pens from when we were kids where you could have red ink, blue ink, black ink?
Yes.
Remember those?
How did you know? Did you take my pen?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen it.
Give it back.
But look, everybody, if you're an artist, you need to muse. You need to learn to draw from observation. And sometimes you got to draw from your imagination, even though the thing's not in front of you. That is a lesson I think Balky could learn and might learn by the end of this episode.
This episode where Balky also has something missing. And in fact, the title is called Season 7, Episode 14, called Missing.
Missing.
Just
simply
missing.
Missing. Okay. What's missing, you say?
Well, the TV guide had your answer with the following description of this episode. After Dimitri is kidnapped,
What?
Balky suffers a creative block that prevents him from sketching.
Well, he's just sketching. He's not actually drawing or doing.
Just
It's just sketching.
Dimitri is Balky's clicky pen.
Yes. You see the metaphor there? You see the simile
got there.
metaphor? What? Yes. Allegory? No. None of those are correct. This week we have a lot of people in the cast. In fact, everyone. You got Bronson Pinchot as Balky, Mark Lynn Baker as Larry, Rebecca Arthur as Marianne, Melanie Wilson as Jennifer. They're here. And Belita Moreno, Miss Lydia, gets a quick cameo. And Sam Gorpley, played by Sam Anderson, gets a quick cameo. And my favorite, F.J. O'Neill, playing R.T. Wainwright. And a special guest cast. Wait till we get to him. A person who was kind of huge now, but this was them in the beginning of their career. And I was very excited to see this person. Yeah, it was a big deal.
This episode aired January 17, 1992.
And you can stream all these episodes of Perfect Strangers right now on Amazon Prime Video.
All right. Let's get into this episode, Missing. We begin Act 1 at the Chronicle, but at their new workspace upstairs, the city room.
Well, and they do the thing where they shoot the door of the Chronicle and then the camera pans up. And I was like, oh.
To tell us we're going
upstairs. We're in the city room of the Chronicle. So, yes, we do get to see their new workplace. I think, what was that, 3 episodes ago they got a promotion?
And we cut to the inside, and Balky and Larry are just entering into the city room from the elevator.
It's jarring, though, because I'm not used to this set and this, whole, this is where they work. I missed the basement already.
Right. And
what is this show even? They're in a house. They're working in a new place.
A whole different show.
What has happened to our Perfect Strangers?
They're not strangers anymore.
They're not even strangers.
Anyway, they've just come back from lunch break, and we have some jokes in the beginning. Balky is saying to Larry, he's like, we go for a nice Chinese lunch at Wong Su's, and you make a fool of yourself in front of Wong and his lovely wife, Sue. That's a little play on Wong Su. And he goes, why? All because the fortune in the fortune cookie. And he goes, don't you know them things can apply to anyone? And Larry's looking all frustrated. And
there he goes, oh, really? Oh, really?
And then he holds up his fortune from his cookie and he reads it. He says, You will be coming into money soon, but if you are Larry Appleton, you won't be using it for tips.
Oh.
And then he makes like this really funny, like frustrated face. But we find out that despite his promotion and raise and everything,
Larry's not a good tipper,
he's not a good tipper.
Because he spent all his money on car radios.
And Wong and Sue have noticed.
And so that's kind of funny if they printed that on every fortune that they give out. So this is a different opening. We get a little small joke. We don't get them giving us the plot. We get Mr. Wainwright walking in with the plot this time. And he comes in. He goes, Appleton, Bartagamus. He says, the theme of next Sunday's magazine section is children, and I want a new Dimitri cartoon for the cover.
Oh, that's a big deal.
That's a big
the Sunday
deal.
magazine, people probably don't realize this now, but the Sunday, it was like the insert in the big fat Sunday paper, and it was like a big deal.
It was prestige. It was sometimes it was like on better paper, right? It was like glossy paper and like
it was prestige to write for the Sunday
because
magazine.
you had like all week to come up with a thing
to be featured in the Sunday magazine.
And Balky's excited. He goes, Dimitri's going to be a cover sheep? Yes, he is. And Balky goes, his dream is to be named People Magazine's sexiest lamb alive. He tells Mr. Wainwright, and Wainwright just goes, oh, I gotta go. He says, I have to meet the lawyers. So, and then here's some more random details as he's pressed the button on the elevator. He says, remember Rob Bob Phillips?
Rob Bob,
who used to work up here? He's suing the paper because we fired him. And then he just goes to Larry. He goes, Appleton, if I ever fire you, don't make a federal case out of it. Giving him a warning. Don't. Larry's already worried about being fired. Larry's like, you can count on me, sir. So Wainwright tells him he needs this cartoon on his desk by Monday morning. It's very important. Their jobs are depending on it.
Here we get the time.
We got a ticking clock.
Pressure. Yes,
we've got
the stakes,
a plot device,
and like a hint that he would fire Larry.
Yes,
some talk of firing is in the air. That raises the stakes too.
Now, where's the conflict? Where we've got almost all the pieces to a story.
So the Wainwright leaves, and at first the Balky and Larry are very excited for this opportunity. And Larry's like, okay, we need this cartoon by Monday morning. Maybe and Balky, we see Balky with like a little desktop like broom thing, and he's sweeping
at his drafting board
stuff off his drafting table. And
he's cleaning. He's getting ready.
But Larry, here it comes with the urgency. He's like, maybe we should skip your warm-up routine and get right to drawing.
My warm-up routine, Balky says. And Larry goes, skip your warm-up routine. Balky goes, skip my warm-up routine. And Larry's just like, okay, do your warm-up routine.
What is the warm-up routine?
This should be good.
First, he puts his fingertips together, like in the evil planning kind of way. And so first he's like 5 finger push-ups.
Finger push-ups. That's what you think they are. You put your fingers to each other.
Yeah, right.
That's how I crack my knuckles sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
You can do that.
And he pumps them in and out, finger push-ups.
5 finger push-ups.
But he counts, and Larry's standing there counting for him. He's like, 1, 2, 3. And then he hesitates, and Larry's like, come on, push. You got one more in you. Dig deep like you would in the gym. 4 or 5. Okay. And Larry's
you can't get that last squat in. It's a little too heavy, too many reps.
Right.
Larry's got to spot him. Larry does, and then he grabs his hands. He goes, "Okay, let's get to drawing." And he swings Balky's hands around onto the table, and they just limp land on the table. And then Balky turns around and goes, "Oh, wait, he's not done with his warm up." And he goes, "And now I have to spell my name in the air with my nose."
Oof.
Okay.
What?
And he starts.
We get no background about this warm up routine.
So he just starts wildly waving his head around, going B A L K, and then he's all dizzy and shooken up when he gets back. He's like,
he's doing
whoa.
Big spellings, not
big,
tiny.
Yes, not big movements with his head and his neck, and he's like, whoa, and Larry has to catch him because he's almost gonna fall over.
And Larry's like, all right, let's get to drawing. And then Balky's like, he goes, okay, Dimitri, let's. And then he's looking around. He's like, oh, where's Dimitri? There's no Dimitri. Presumably he sits on his desk the whole time. And Larry's like, I don't know, whatever. We'll find him later. Let's just start drawing.
Start with the drawing, Balky.
And Balky says that here's the problem. He cannot draw Dimitri unless Dimitri is in front of him.
He says he has to connect with him. So this is kind of interesting. Like, he can't draw. Come on. You know what Dimitri looks like.
Yeah, use the old cartoons to...
You draw, you learn by drawing from real life, figure drawing and such, but at some point you've done it enough or you could just draw it from your imagination. But no, Balky needs Dimitri to draw him. He says he's usually over here on the corner of my desk, right where this note is. What? And he picks up this folded paper and he opens it, and clearly from the back you can see it's like a ransom note.
Okay.
There's cutout letters.
So I think we should explain this.
The note.
In the old days, either real ransom notes or at least how they were portrayed on television.
Yeah, I think they did this. It makes sense
why
you would do this.
Concept of you cut, because everybody had newspapers and magazines, print things lying around. So you would, or like ads or whatever, everything was on paper lying around. So you would cut out each letter to avoid your handwriting being detected.
Or even like typewriter, they could find the typewriter. If you used the typewriter, they could trace
find
back
the indentation.
Yes, by the different quirks. But it's handwriting analysis, so you wouldn't get caught.
You would cut out each letter of each word from a different part of the paper.
And it's a cool look, right?
Together.
It's like a punk rock poster look now. It's like it's a lot of work. It's a collage you're doing. So anyways, you see all this, and Balky is reading it. It says, I have the sheep. Do exactly as I tell you, or you'll never see him again. I'll be in touch. And then he holds up the sheet and goes, Cousin, I can't help but notice what a tremendous amount of work went into the writing of this note. He goes, obviously, the person who sent it cares enough to send the very best, which I believe was the Hallmark greeting card slogan. Yeah. Hallmark, care enough to send the very best. Nice. So he's like, I wonder where Dimitri is. So he's just like, wow, this guy took a lot of time to cut out. He has no idea what's going on until Larry snatches the note and goes, Balky, Dimitri has been kidnapped. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. This is assuming this is a ransom note for Dimitri. Why would somebody steal a stuffed sheep? It's very strange. Here's the conflict.
We need the cartoon on Wainwright's desk by Monday morning, or else there is like a suggestion of being fired.
It's their jobs.
And
now Balky is unable to draw said cartoon
unless Dimitri's there, and Dimitri's been kidnapped. So we cut to the house, and it's like the next day. We see Balky, and he looks like he's got like stubble, and like he's unshaven, he's disheveled, like he's been stressed all night about Dimitri, right?
Yeah, he's got a little 5 o'clock shadow, right? Well, Balky runs in, he's got his coat on, he was outside. He has run back in. He said, I put missing sheep posters all over the neighborhood. And he asked him if the kidnapper called yet. Larry tells him he hasn't. Balky's like, I don't know what else to do. I dusted my drawing table for fingerprints. I faxed Dimitri's picture to Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, we have to explain Unsolved Mysteries.
And he's just like, I don't know what else to do. What kind of a person could do this? I am emotionally drained. Balky is all perturbed and...
You're not going to talk about Unsolved Mysteries?
Well, to explain that, you got to explain what a fax machine is. He faxed Dimitri's pictures to Unsolved Mysteries. Faxes.
Still have faxes, no?
Some places. Yeah. It's hard to find a fax machine.
Yeah, true.
It was like sending images over telephone lines, kind of like before email, but it would print out and it would make the noise. Yeah. Had to be connected to a phone line. Most famously used in Back to the Future 2.
Documents and...
where Marty McFly got fired in the future via fax. But yeah, if you're doing like a legal deal or a real estate, you have to fax. It's annoying. I don't know. Some people still use fax, but it's very annoying. Unsolved Mysteries was the show hosted by Robert Stack, of course, where they would just bring up like missing.
Oh, they started it again in 20.
Yeah, it started over. It was like murders, but also like weird paranormal things, probably, and ghosts and any kind of unsolved mysteries.
Dramatic music. So, it ran from 1987 to 2010.
Yeah.
And then another version started in 2020 that is apparently still running. Unsolved Mysteries.
I don't think Robert Stack is still alive, though. But he was a great host.
Okay. So Balky has faxed this picture to this show. He doesn't know what else he could do. He's emotionally drained. He starts crying, and Larry's patting his back, and
yeah, but so Balky is crying, and Larry's like, it's okay. And then Balky suddenly snaps upright and goes, I will not cry. Defiant, right? He's not going to let the kidnapper get to him. And then Larry suggests, Balky, maybe you should do something that would take your mind off Dimitri. Oh, that's a good idea. And Balky goes, cousin, that's great. Well, but what could I do? And Larry's like, oh, boo, I got it. And Larry goes, you could draw. And Balky's still standing there, still goes, but what could I do? Larry goes, I said I got it.
Got it.
He's like, you could draw. And Balky goes, I could draw. And Larry goes, you could draw. You could draw. Yes. Yes. But Balky's like, yes, I could draw. But what could I draw? What could I draw? And Larry's like, what could you draw? What could you draw? And he takes him over to the couch and they sit down. And then Larry goes, I got it. He goes, you could draw a nice fluffy white cloud. And Balky's sitting there, and then it just goes, what could I draw? And Larry again goes,
I've got it.
I said
I've got it.
Balky jumps. You could draw a nice fluffy white cloud, he tells him. And Balky's like, oh, I could draw a nice fluffy white cloud. I could draw a nice fluffy white cloud.
And so he gives him the Sharpie and the marker, and we see Balky take it in his left hand because he's a lefty.
Yeah, and he holds the pen all weird. Like he's not really a lefty.
Anyway, he starts drawing this cloud.
Larry is tricking him into stuff.
Good.
What else looks like a cloud, of course?
And so he sits next to him. He's like, give him some eyes, maybe. Some eyes right there.
Little nose.
Little nose. Maybe a tail over there. Mm-hmm. Oh, but the mouth.
Yeah.
And
Becca's like, oh, yes. He's trying.
And Larry takes the page, rips it off the pad. He's like, oh, great. This is good. And Balky takes the page back from him. And he goes, what's really nice about it? I just figured out what you're doing. You're trying to trick me into drawing Dimitri. That is low, cousin. Low, even for you. And he tears up the
sheet, gives it to Larry. And Larry has the pieces, and he's like...
he's trying to put them back together.
Just throws him in the air, giving up. Yes. Good try, Larry. He almost got him to get a drawing of Dimitri. But it didn't work when Jennifer enters through the front door. And she has some mail and some dry cleaning. And she says, I got the mail. And Balky's like, oh, maybe there's something from the kidnapper. And they run over there. And Larry's still concerned with his job, who tells them he's running out of time. We need to get this cartoon on Mr. Wainwright's desk by Monday morning.
And Balky opens up one of the envelopes and he pulls out like a piece of fabric. And then he's like, oh, no, it's Dimitri's ear.
What is this? It's Dimitri's ear. And he faints, passes out, and falls back, and Larry has to catch him. It's not Dimitri's
Jennifer
ear.
Jennifer says, Balky, that's fabric swatch I ordered for new drapes for our bedroom.
Okay.
And then
Balky a heart attack there, Jennifer. Jeez.
Takes the mail. Jennifer leaves the mail with them and leaves the scene. And then there's like a padded envelope.
It's a manila envelope. You've seen these.
Yeah.
Manila.
And, Larry opens it and pulls out a VHS tape, no labels.
Well, you know what's funny about this? Larry says exactly the same response would happen if you pulled out a VHS tape and showed it to like a Gen Zer. He pulls it out. He goes, "What's this?"
Which is so funny, but it meant something else in '92.
If you showed that to a kid today, you would get the same reaction.
In '92, it meant he knew what it was. He didn't know what was on it. That's what
this is like. What tape? Why do we have this tape?
What is recorded on this tape?
But now what's this? It's like literally. What is that?
Yeah.
There's movies on there. What are you talking about?
Bad. So that's the VHS tape.
VHS tape.
And Balky goes, isn't that one of your Think and Grow Taller tapes?
Think and Grow Taller. And Larry goes, no, that was just a series of 5. He's got all 5 of them, apparently. And then they look at each other and they realize this got to be from the kidnapper, right? And they're both holding on to it with one hand.
Do a funny run.
And they run over towards the VCR, which was a device connected to your television that allowed you to play said video cassette tape.
What did VCR stand for?
Video cassette recorder. No. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know. Sure. What did VHS stand for? Video. It didn't. I don't know if it stood for anything.
Video cassette recorder.
Video high speed. Video.
VHS.
What are they called? VHS.
Video home system.
Video home system. It sounds so generic right now. What do we call these? I don't know. It's a video. You're watching at home. And we're going to need a system to play. Video home system. VHS. That's brilliant.
So they run over to the VCR, the video cassette recorder, and put the tape in. And then on the screen, we see
This is kind of funny.
the stuffed Dimitri with a blindfold.
He's got a blindfold on.
And then a copy of the Chronicle to show the date.
Yes.
Which is like
that was a common trope. Yes.
Situation.
That was a common trope to prove that this tape is
person's
new.
alive and recent. It's not a trope. It's like a way for hostage
you would hold
takers to show that they're
like, I need proof of that the hostage is good. I need a video with him holding up today's newspaper. Yeah, they would do that, I guess.
So they did that here with Dimitri. Which is cute. Yeah. And
then there's a voice.
It's gravelly, and he's like, as you can see, I still have your sheep. I want $10,000.
$10,000.
Or I'll turn him into 10,000 Q-tips. You catch my drift. And he says, I'll contact you within 24 hours. $10,000
for a stuffed sheep. Oh, Dimitri. Boy. Fade to black. That's the end of Act 1. Listener.
It's a little far-fetched.
I mean, but why not ask for $1 million? You're going 10,000. I mean,
you should have taken something else.
500,000 less. I don't know. Listener, join our Facebook group where you can join this conversation. I post threads about each episode before we record them so you can watch along, leave your comments, observations, and we include them at the end of the show. You'll hear some on this show, and you hear them on every show. You can also meet other fans of Perfect Strangers, listeners to this podcast. It is a fun community. Join it. Link in the episode description.
And we come to Act 2. The Act 2 starts, it's like maybe the next day some time has passed because we know because he's still like unshaven and stubbly. And
he's even more unshaven. It's darker.
Yeah. He's been stressing. And he's got, Balky has a cardboard box. He's running around the living room. Like he grabs the lamp, unplugs it, puts the whole lamp in the box. He
grabs that tapestry that he made, or he said his sister made, or somebody made for Christmas. That was right on the wall, by the stairs.
Yeah.
So he's packing up things, and Marianne comes in, and she sees him with all this stuff in the box, and she's like, "Hey, Balky, what's all this stuff?"
Balky explains that, and as he's explaining to her, he's like removing her earrings and puts them in the box, takes her like wristwatch or whatever, puts in the box. But he explains that the kidnapper called and wants $10,000 ransom for Dimitri. He's going to call today. So Balky's just getting things to sell, gathering things to sell to get that $10,000.
Balky needs a GoFundMe.
Yeah, and he takes like the bracelet off her wrist, what's in the box.
And I guess Marianne just wears like clip-on earrings because he pulls them right off. Like that's not a stud earring.
Depends on what they are. Yeah.
No, but it's clearly not an earring that with a backing.
You can pull right off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But is it going through a hole in your ear?
It does, but it's not a back, but it's like a catch. Listener, cousin Imran doesn't know about earrings. Anyway, he's trying to gather things to sell to get $10,000 to get his Dimitri back. Now, whoever took Dimitri sheep and asked for $10,000 must have known the backstory of the sheep and how special it is to Balky and how he needs it.
Okay, that's a clue.
That's
a clue to the kidnapper's identity.
Oh, then Marianne looks into the box, Balky's box, and she's like, wait, that's my hair dryer.
Uh-oh.
Balky says, yeah, I know, but I was hoping you would donate it to Dimitri's ransom fund, unless it's a priceless family heirloom lovingly handed down from mother to daughter every generation for years back since your family first came to this country, and therefore much, much more important than Dimitri's life.
And he's like crying by the end of the sentence.
But Dimitri's not an heirloom that was handed down, but anyway.
Wasn't he?
No,
he was made out of the sheep. That's right.
Yeah.
Out of real wool, out of the real Dimitri.
But anyway, his manipulation works. She's like, oh, of course. How could I be so heartless? Keep the dryer. I'll get you my facial sauna, and runs off to get more
What's
stuff.
a facial sauna?
I have no idea what a facial maybe like a steamer thing.
Maybe like a trendy thing back in the 90s.
Yeah. Like a face steamer or something.
Is it something you put your whole head in or like you apply to? I was very curious. Anyways.
Yeah.
Larry runs in all excited with the paper bag, and he just goes, Balky! Incredible news. He's very happy. Something crazy happened. And Balky rushes over, and while Larry is talking, Balky has already grabbed Larry's hand, trying to pull the wedding ring off of his finger as Larry goes, you'll never guess what I found in the trash dumpster behind the Chronicle. And he's like, what are you doing? Stop it. He's trying to pull the ring off. He finally gets it out. He throws his jacket. He goes into the paper bag, and he pulls out, he goes, Balky, I found Dimitri, and he pulls out what looks like Dimitri out of the paper bag, and the whole audience oohs and ahs and applauds.
Ooh. And he shows it to him, but then Balky goes to reach for it, and he pulls it away up in the air, away from Balky. And he holds Balky at an arm's length on the other side. And Balky's like, "Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy." And he starts doing it, but Larry's not
only Balky's doing
responding. So it's, unreciprocated.
The one-sided dance of joy.
And Larry's like, "Okay, yeah, but first we draw, then we dance." He waves Dimitri in front of Balky, and until Balky follows him, waving Dimitri to the couch to sit down.
He's continuing to keep Balky at a distance from Dimitri, so something's up. He will not let Balky get close to Dimitri, or the other way around. You're like, what do you do?
Yeah. And he pulled him out of a mysterious paper bag, saying he found him in the dumpster behind the Chronicle. And so he's but he lures him to the couch with Dimitri, with shaking Dimitri in front of him. Here we go. And Balky gets suspicious. He says, "Why can't I hold him?" And Larry's like, "Oh, Dimitri's been through a traumatic experience. He needs to spend some time alone."
Still holding him at arm's length. And then Bucky's like, but cousin, the thing is, yesterday he wanted $10,000 for Dimitri, and why he did change his mind. And Larry's like, maybe somebody saw him with Dimitri, and he had to get rid of the evidence. The important thing is Dimitri's here, and he holds Dimitri very close to Balky, and then yanks it away again. Yeah. He's teasing him to the Dimitri, and then this part's funny. He goes, "Okay, now we can get to that cartoon Mr. Wainwright wants," and he holds Dimitri in front of Balky, and then lowers it so that Balky sits down on the couch. He's totally
puppeteering him with
like Dimitri, a carrot and a donkey, leading him to the thing. And so they sit on the sofa, and Larry's like, okay, let's do your warm-ups. 5-finger push-ups. And the whole time, Balky's trying to grab
his hands together.
Yes, because Balky's trying to grab Dimitri, who is now set on the table. And then Balky starts and goes 1, 2, and then Larry grabs his hand and goes 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then Larry grabs the back of Balky's head and pulls by his hair and pulls him back. He goes, "Okay, now we're going to write your name in the air with your nose." And then Larry proceeds to just wildly swing Balky's head around. He's not even really spelling the letters.
Yeah.
And he just goes B-A.
But
L.
big
movement up and down. He's essentially manhandling Bronson Pinchot. It's really funny. And Balky's screaming. He's screaming the whole time, and he stops. And then this is my favorite line of the whole thing. Balky screams, he stops, and Balky goes, cousin, I always write my name with capitals. You're using lowercase. And then Larry goes, "Oh, that's all right." And he grabs his head again, and then kind of writes his name in lowercase. Does the same, up and down.
B-A-L.
Violently shaking his head around. And finally lets up. And Balky's like, "Why does it have to hurt so much?"
And Larry goes, "Just be glad you don't have a longer name."
That's kind of funny.
"Okay, here we go. We're going to draw this cartoon." Larry goes to get the pad and the marker from the table, and for a moment, Dimitri is unguarded. And so Balky grabs Dimitri and looks at him, and then he goes, "Aha!
Uh-oh.
You wait just a cotton candy minute." I think it's supposed to be a cotton picking minute.
Cotton candy, yeah.
"You wait just a cotton candy minute. Dimitri was made of pure wool, and this little imitation is made of some synthetic fiber." He caught him.
He's figured it out.
Yeah. And he's he looks at the tag on the belly of the sheep. He goes, "Cousin, my little friend Dimitri was not 32% rayon.
Uh-oh.
This is not Dimitri. This is some puny polyester imposter."
I love the P alliteration there. It's great.
Plosives.
Yeah. And then he throws it back at Larry, and Larry's like, "But Balky, no, of course it's Dimitri." He goes, "If it wasn't Dimitri, how do you explain that when I walked by the dumpster, he was calling my name?" And he's holding up Dimitri, and he moves his head, and he goes, "Cousin Larry. Cousin Larry." It's so funny. The voice that he does.
Funny.
He's moving the head, and Balky looks at him and goes, "Get a grip. This is a stuffed sheep."
How did they not laugh?
He goes, "Cousin Larry." It's so good. His voice is so good. But then Larry has to confess, look, it's not Dimitri, but if he doesn't draw Dimitri, Wainwright is going to fire them. And Balky's like, look, cousin, I don't know how to tell you this. I cannot draw Dimitri unless I have Dimitri in front of me. It's like you cannot take a pill unless Jennifer hides it in applesauce. Larry's such a little baby.
Baby.
And then Larry finally gets it, and he stands up and goes, okay, you can't draw Dimitri unless he's here. We'll just have to get Dimitri back. At least he didn't go to the old, what he did in the other episode where he's like, I'll draw it myself.
Yeah.
No, he actually says, we're going to get Dimitri back. Balky says we can't afford the ransom, and Larry's like, forget the ransom. We're going to catch the kidnapper. And his plan, and then they both put their legs up on the coffee table at the same time. Put one leg up in the thinking position, and he comes up with a plan.
Yeah,
they
pirate position.
The pirate, the Captain Jack's rum pirate position. His plan is they want to get the kidnapper to meet them in a place where they have the advantage. Where could that be? Balky goes, I know, the jungle gym. I know that thing inside out, the park. And Larry says it'll never work. And then Balky's like, how about the market? And Larry's like, what advantage does that give us? Balky goes, none, but we need milk.
Multitasking. And then while they're talking, the phone rings and Balky runs to answer it. And he goes, hello? Yes, this is Balky Bartakamus. And we find out that on the other end is the man who has Dimitri. And so then Balky goes back to the phone. He goes, listen, he likes to be scratched behind the ears and he likes to sleep on his left side and he has lift. Yes, I know he's just a stuffed animal, but I've been under tremendous emotional strain. Please indulge me.
Please indulge me.
Oh, poor Balky. And Larry grabs the receiver and like covers the speaker part. And he talks to Balky. He's like, we have to play tough. And he grabs the receiver and he goes, okay, listen, Pally.
Pally means you're getting tough now.
Listen up and listen good. He's like, we've got your $10,000, but we're not going to meet you in some dark, dangerous alley. And then he like looks at Balky like, huh? I'm good. And then he goes back to his like mean voice. He goes, no, shut up. Don't talk. We'll meet you tonight at midnight in the basement of the Chronicle and bring the sheep. And Larry hangs up the receiver, but then Balky picks it up again and screams into it. And that goes double for me, Pally.
He's already hung up.
So they tell him to meet at midnight?
Yes, in the basement of the Chronicle, which is great because they could still use the set of the basement of the Chronicle.
I guess.
What did I say? I was missing the basement. Are we ever going to see it again?
Yeah.
There's a great way to still use this set.
It's a great
that's
place
recognizable.
It's
a great ransom. Listen, they have poker parties there late at night. All sorts of things happen in the middle of the night, as we've seen in the Chronicle.
Oh yeah, there was a dynamite.
There was a bomber.
Guy with a bomb.
There's we'll also see some illicit things happening. I don't know if they know. We'll find out. But it is. We transition. We see the nighttime shot of the Chronicle. And we're in the basement.
We don't pan up.
No, we don't pan up. It stays down. It doesn't pan down either. Yeah. It should pan down.
Yeah.
And we see Balky and Larry, and they're both wearing jackets, and they're back to their color-coded attire. As Larry is in a blue jacket, and Balky's in a red jacket.
Red, bright blue, bright red.
And Larry has what appears to be a bag of marbles, and he is just dropping marbles all over the floor. Which, if you watch cartoons, is how you set a booby trap for people. Yeah. Because if there's marbles on the floor, people won't see them and they will fall and trip. Works every time.
Your feet will roll right out.
Oldest trick in the book.
But Balky doesn't get what he's doing at first, and he says, cousin, I love playing marbles just as much as anyone, but now seems kind of an odd time.
This is an odd time.
He goes, I don't know how you play, but you know what we do on Meepos? And he takes a handful of marbles and he goes, we put all the marbles in our mouth, and he puts them in his mouth. And then he goes, with marbles in his mouth, he goes, and then we'll see who can spit them the farthest. And he starts spitting one by one. Yeah, with that sound.
And then before he's about to do the third one, and Larry just covers his mouth. And I was like, oh, you're going to make him choke on a marble. What are you doing, Larry? That's very dangerous. And Larry's like, we are not playing marbles.
And he takes his hand off of Balky's mouth, and Balky spits out a third marble.
He tells him we are setting a trap for the kidnapper. When he comes in, he'll step on the marbles. When he falls, that's when we jump him. That's his plan.
Okay.
Just like in cartoons.
Just like in cartoons.
He says,
It was
okay.
very like Tom and Jerry.
It's very Tom and Jerry. Someone else mentioned in the comments, we'll get to it.
Yeah,
Home Alone. Yes.
But there wasn't marbles. There were Legos and broken ornaments.
There's
like owie things.
Yeah, like jacks. The jack pieces that are pointy, like that would do more damage.
There
was a nail through the foot. I still cannot watch that scene to this day.
I can't watch the iron on the face.
That's fine.
On the face.
Even the spider.
Way.
Even the spider.
The iron on the face.
He steps barefoot on the nail. Oh no!
I can watch that one weirdly. I can't watch the iron.
Iron on the face is so cartoony that it's fine. But the other things seem too real. Anyways, but it's not a Home Alone podcast. We can do a whole Home Alone podcast.
We could do a Home Alone.
Like a minute. We should do a minute. Like every episode is 1 minute of the movie.
Or one scene.
No, 1 minute. They've done this. There's podcasts that do minute by minute movie recaps where every episode is
How long are the episodes
you
of the
talk,
podcast?
You can, it doesn't matter. You talk about just 1 minute of a movie so that at least ensures you like 90 episodes if it's a 90-minute, 80
People
episode.
do that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Star Wars minute.
All right, cousins.
It's a whole
let us
category.
know if you want us to
It's
do
a
a
whole
minute
thing.
by minute
It's a minute podcast.
Home Alone
Yeah.
podcast.
People do that. Like, people do all sorts of things.
Or we should do our other favorite movie that nobody's heard of, Brain Donors.
Brain Donors I have on VHS. Speaking of VHS, right here in this room.
Brain Donors.
Or a Brain Donors review. Nobody's seen that movie. It's hilarious.
Let's bring it back. It was my
Okay,
favorite.
anyway, so that's the plan. Larry spills out the rest of the marbles. He goes, okay, hit the lights. So Balky goes, turns off the lights, and it gets dark. And it's like actually dark now. And they both crouch behind the meal table with their arms crossed, on top. They're on their knees. And you just see the top of their arms and their heads. And there's like a beat of silence. And then Balky just goes, cousin, what are you thinking?
And
Larry's response is amazing.
Goes, I was just thinking that I'm waiting here in the dark for someone deranged enough to kidnap a stuffed sheep, and therefore probably deranged enough to be carrying one of those automatic assault rifles. And I'm doing this so I can fill in the bubble over a cartoon to please my boss, who thinks I'm a babbling twit. And he goes, maybe I should re-examine my life.
Larry just had a cathartic, therapeutic
quarter-life crisis
moment and just figured out. He's like, what am I doing? What am I actually? And that's exactly what he's doing. It's hilarious. And Balky goes, cousin, you want to hear what I was thinking? And Larry just kind of slowly looks at him and goes, no. Puts his head back down.
And Balky spits out another marble, which I saw coming.
Yes, how many marbles? Where did the marble come from?
I saw this gag coming right when he started the gag.
The marble gag
I'm like,
continues.
he's gonna be spitting out marbles till the end. But then
I'm like, did he have marbles still in his mouth?
Yeah,
when does he sneak
that's
them
the
in?
funny part of it, but I totally saw that.
He just spits out a marble. It's pretty funny. It's a good punchline, right? You just go,
yeah,
and everybody gets it. And then they hear footsteps.
And they're like, okay, so what's coming? It's a kidnapped her. All right, go. When he falls, we're going to jump him. And they duck down behind that table. And, we see a figure and a person enter. We hear their footsteps and Larry goes, now. And, they flip on the lights apparently. And they both jump up and run toward the person. And of course, on the floor are marbles. So the two of them, very cartoon-like, their feet roll out in front of them, and they're suspended in the air. They land on their back. They land with a thud flat on their backs on the floor.
So this is very good. This is some great stunt work here. That we'll see this again, but I'm just going to mention now the way they edit it. You see them start to fall, and it cuts to a pair of stuntmen
that are airbound that are falling on their back.
Do the actual fall and take the hit, and they turn their head away.
Their heads away,
and then it cuts to another angle where it's them on the floor. But it's edited very well.
Them doing this,
and the actual fall is great. The stunt is great because they're really
they're
just
really high up in the air. They kick their legs totally 4 feet off the ground or something.
It's a great fall, and it looks great, and we'll see it a couple more times, of course. Rule of threes.
Go stuntman. Watch Fall Guy.
Yeah.
Didn't do well.
Yeah, didn't do well.
All right. So then we cut to them on the ground, these two actors, and they look up and they're like, oh, it's Miss Lydia. And Balky's like, boy, you think you know a person. He thinks Miss Lydia is the kidnapper come to meet them.
Of course.
And Lydia's all confused. She's like, what are you guys doing here? And then they stand up from the floor and And Balky's still upset because he thinks it's her. And he says, Miss Lydia, you've kidnapped Dimitri and you're here to collect the ransom money. I love you, Miss Lydia, but you have thrown me into a terrible emotional conflict. You have done a horrible thing. But I want you to know that I'm going to do everything I can to help you become once again a useful member of society. And he goes, cousin, get her out of my sight.
That's great.
Like she's going to prison or something.
Yes, he's
to
sick as he's the cop.
rehabilitate.
Look, I love that he's into rehabilitation and he's
Yeah.
merciful and forgiving. But then he's like, cousin, get her out of my sight.
And Lydia's like, I didn't steal your sheep. I don't even eat lamb.
He doesn't even eat lamb. It's funny. And Larry gets up and he goes, Balky, it wasn't Lydia. It was a man's voice on the phone. So a little quick deduction.
Yeah.
Clever
so
deduction.
Balky apologizes and said he's just tense because of this Dimitri situation. And
Lydia's like, well, shame on you. And she smacks Balky on the face. At
guess
which
what?
point, he spits out another marble.
Another marble.
It's funny punchline.
I love it.
Marble. When did that marble? When it fell?
I could have used even one more at the end.
There is one more.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, there's one more. There's three. That happens 3 times.
Okay,
and this fall happens 3 times. So Larry goes, false alarm. Okay. They reset. Larry goes, hit the
Reset.
lights.
Yeah. They turn off
back
the lights. They
back to
crouch
1,
down
everybody. Back to 1.
behind the mail table.
Yes,
from the
it's
top.
dark again. And then this time, really quickly, they hear footsteps again.
And then they go through, they're like, okay, this is it. And we see another person enter, and then the same thing happens. Now, Larry goes, now. He turns on the lights. They jump up. They run toward the person. And once again, here come the stunt doubles. Kick their feet. Their feet roll out in front of them. They're
Another great
airbound
fall.
in the air.
Jeez, they
fall
really-
flat on their back.
They could really hurt
a
themselves.
second time.
The stuntmen are great, yes.
We cut back after they've already on the ground, and it's like our actors again. And they look up and they're like, cousin, it's Mr. Gorpley. Boy, you think you know a person.
He does the same thing again.
He thinks it's Mr.
And
Gorpley.
Gorpley's like, do you ever think maybe you two spend too much time together? Because he's like, what is happening?
And Balky stands up, still thinking it's Mr. Gorpley. He says, why you didn't come to me? We could have talked this over. I thought we were friends. And Larry's like, Balky, Larry knows what's going on. He's like, it's not Gorpley. That's not why he's here. He looks at Mr. Gorpley and he goes, Lydia's upstairs.
Oh.
And Gorpley goes,
like,
she is? Oh. And then he's like, maybe I'll just stop up and say hi. And then he like spritz his mouth with like Banaka or whatever. Breath
remember
spray.
Banaka, yes.
Okay,
and he
hold
runs upstairs,
on.
meaning they're doing some
They're
canoodling.
having
This illicit tryst.
midnight canoodling
In the office?
In the
In her-
office?
well, she
in
has-
the workplace?
She has an office, so
Don't they have apartments?
they don't want anybody to know. Remember, she didn't want anybody
yeah,
to
but
know.
that's why you would go to your apartment, not
Yes.
your workplace.
Like here, clearly everybody knows that Lydia and Gorpley are hooking
it's so
up, right?
weird. Like, what were the writers thinking? They're like, let's just have them rendezvous in the Chronicle at midnight.
I like that there's still a thing, and Lydia is giving Gorpley a chance.
Yeah,
'Cause,
and I can see how they needed like 2 people to come, false alarms to come before the kidnapper, and that's what they came up with. But
and it adds a little bit
tell us
of
why they're meeting,
but it just adds in your mind, Gorpley and Lydia.
Or
canoodling.
Lydia's honestly there to work, and Gorpley's some pervy newspaper guy.
Oh no, I
who's,
think they
like,
set it up.
stuff.
I think Lydia likes it. She just
Yeah, I think
doesn't
so,
want to do it in public, right? Anyways,
Yeah, but they are in public. It's their work.
Yes, everybody does. That's the funny thing. They reset again.
It's more public than their apartment.
And walk back, and he goes, hit the lights, and they turn the lights off, and they go back to their first position. And Bucky's just like, how long do you think this parade of innocent people will go on?
And Larry's like, I don't know, but when the real guy shows up, when this monster shows up, we'll be ready for him. And as he's saying this, and they're like kind of taking their time to reset this time, going back to the table, this a very short man comes out from behind the archives, and from behind them, and just passes them, and he's like, hi. And they startle a little bit, and Larry turns on the lights again, and Balky's like, oh, Rob Bob, how are you?
It's Rob Bob from the mention in the beginning of the show.
Who's suing the Chronicle
because he got fired. And not only that, we'll just mention this now, it is the great Leslie Jordan.
It is. What a delight to see him on this episode.
We'll get into his credentials later, but everybody.
Very young Leslie Jordan, still short, but
very short
a
and
bit slimmer than later in his life.
Yeah. Well, I'll just tell you this. By this point in his career, his first acting job, actually, you just said it, was on The Fall Guy
Oh,
in
really?
1986. So by this point, he had done an episode of Night Court, Murphy Brown, Newhart,
So he's just starting out.
Pee-wee's
in TV.
Playhouse,
Yeah.
and then Perfect Strangers in 92.
What a delight.
And we will get into after we're done.
Yeah.
We'll tell you where he's been. But right away, I
Right
was
now,
like,
he's Rob Bob.
I was like, oh my god, it's Leslie Jordan. I didn't
Yes.
think I was expecting Leslie Jordan. That was great. Bucky's like, how are you, Rob Bob? And he's like, cousin Larry, look, it's Rob Bob Phillips. He used to work here.
And Rob Bob says he's fine, and yeah, Larry Balky says he used to work here to Larry, and Larry's like, yeah, okay, whatever, just get down, Rob Bob, because we're waiting to catch a kidnapper. And he turns off the lights, and
Bucky hit the lights, he says.
yeah, and they all duck down, all three of them now, and then in that position behind the table, Rob Bob goes, I'm the kidnapper.
Then Larry just goes, Bucky hit the lights.
And they stand up, turn the lights on.
What? He's the kidnapper.
Rob, I knew it.
Let me ask you, when did you know Rob Bob was the kidnapper?
I knew it when
At
the
what
tape
point?
came. I knew it at just before the end of Act 1. I was like, it's going to be Rob Bob.
I'll be honest, I wasn't even thinking about it, and it never even occurred to me that it would be Rob Bob, but of course it would be Rob Bob because they mentioned Rob Bob.
Yeah, the only reason it occurred to me is because there was a reference to Rob Bob, and then it just hung there with no connection. And Rob Bob is upset because he's been fired.
We were just watching it before the first act ended. You're like, it's Rob Bob, isn't it? I was like, yeah, it's Rob Bob.
And no, that's not what you said. You said, how did you know
How
so
did you know
soon?
Rob
He's
Bob?
like, you're like, it took me a lot longer. Yes, I have impressed cousin Imran.
Clever deduction. I should have seen it that it was, of course, going to be Rob Bob.
Thinking brain.
But I didn't get it was Rob Bob.
Totally.
So, anyways, why did Rob Bob do this?
Well, first he starts with an apology. I'm sorry to put you through so much. I know it's hard on you. He pulls out Dimitri from the bag and gives him to Balky. And Balky hugs him. He's like, Dimitri. And Rob Bob says he took really good care of him. He said he really wasn't much trouble.
Yes, of course.
And Balky says, okay, we haven't been able to raise all of the $10,000 ransom.
And he starts to hand Dimitri back
Oh
to
my
Rob Bob.
gosh.
He's like, listen, Rob, we don't have the money, so we'll just arrange something.
Yeah. And then
Larry walks over, grabs it, gives it back to him. He's like, we're not giving him anything.
Yeah. He's like, what are you doing?
And then this is great because this is now for the first time someone shorter than Larry Appleton that he can pretend to be macho over. And he goes, you short guys really tick me off. You know that?
And he grabs him by the shirt and starts shaking him around.
It's like, you sleazy little worm. And he's just like, he's finally power hungry because it's the only person shorter than Larry Appleton.
And Rob Bob's like, I don't want any money. And it's all in that same Leslie Jordan accent that he has of every character, that like sweet Southern type
drawl.
Of accent.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't want any money. And Larry's like, sure, now that you're dealing with someone bigger than you are, you sawed-off little criminal.
He goes, how tall are you? How tall are you? And then Bucky just steps between them, goes in, and then he just grabs Larry
by the neck.
Instantly stops him, shoves him back like it's no problem.
Because Balky's
bigger than Larry.
Yeah.
It's the law of nature. It's the law of the kingdom, law of the jungle.
Yeah. And he goes, that's enough. And Rob Bob says, I just want Balky to forgive me. And here's where we get the backstory. It's just given to us. He says, reason your Dimitri cartoon got into the Chronicle is because the cartoon I draw, Kangaroo Cowboy, was dropped from the paper. I was hurt and I wanted to hurt you, so I took Dimitri. I thought the paper would pay the ransom.
So we heard about this 3 episodes ago, Dimitri's World, where Wainwright said, we're dropping Kangaroo Cowboy and your Dimitri sheep is in. The other question is, he thought the paper was going to pay $10,000 for a stuffed sheep. Rob Bob. I don't know where he thought that was going to work, but I don't even think the paper knew what was going on.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But
it's just a weird premise all around.
Rob Bob does feel bad.
Rob Bob feels bad.
He said, I felt awful. And then he says, then I realized Kangaroo Cowboy would never do something that despicable. That's why he gave Dimitri back to him, and he apologizes. And Balky says, I forgive you. And then Larry just goes off on Rob Bob again after giving Balky Dimitri. He goes, you know what you are? You are short. You're so short. He grabs him again. He's like, you're just a short little worm, huh? Just a short little worm. And then again, Balky steps between him and just grabs Larry by the collar and pushes him back. And Larry's like, let me have one more shot at him. Come on.
He's like, hey, how's the weather down there?
How's the weather down there? He's not that much shorter. We'll get into the heights a little bit later. But he is pretty short. Leslie Jordan is also known to be short.
So Larry gets it out of his system. He calms down a bit and he goes, why didn't you tell us all this when you called? And Rob Bob goes, I tried. You wouldn't let me talk.
Balky's like, I hear that. Remember? Because Larry he's like, shut up, don't talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it all could have been resolved on the phone, but no.
So Rob Bob says he should go and he apologizes again. And Balky says, really, it's okay. And he says, hey, give Kangaroo Cowboy a real big buckaroo howdy for me. And they both do this like kangaroo hop. They
go, howdy.
Yeah, howdy. Which must be a kangaroo cowboy
It's
thing.
a kangaroo cowboy thing.
From a comic strip, but how do they know what it sounds like? Anyway.
It's also, there was lesson time music when Rob Bob was spilling his guts. It was nice. Made it emotional.
So he's like, okay, I'll tell him. And he leaves. And Larry picks up Dimitri and hands him to Balky. He says, okay, now let's go up to our office. If we hurry, we can still get the Dimitri cartoon on Mr. Wainwright's desk by morning.
Hold on,
it must be Sunday already.
There's 2 gags that need to be repeated because we've only seen them twice.
Right. So they like get excited, I guess, so excited that they want to run toward the elevator to go upstairs to their office. And of course, there are still marbles on the floor. So here's our number 3 with the stuntmen with the legs flying out from under them.
Taking the fall.
Airbound and landing with a thud on their
Just
backs.
Ignore the fact that Rob Bob just walked by this exact same area.
Not only Rob Bob,
Gorpley.
Lydia, Gorpley, everybody walked through the marbles.
Only they fell.
And so they fall a 3rd time and they slowly sit up. And Balky says, this is why on Meepos we leave the marble playing to the professionals. And then here's the 3rd. He spits out another marble from his mouth. And roll credits.
Roll credits, listener. Check out our TeePublic shop. Visit danceofjoypod.com/shop if you want to get a t-shirt or a hoodie or a coffee mug or a tote bag or a cell phone case with the Dance of Joy podcast logo on it. It is a great way to support the show and to advertise the show.
One of these days we'll make a Dimitri sheep.
Oh, I have so many ideas for
like an
t-shirts.
Actual sheep.
Oh, you want to make with the embroidered logo on the side?
Yeah.
You're going to have to source that in China or something.
Yeah.
It's going to be pricey. Anyway, so this is a good time to talk about Leslie Jordan.
Yeah.
Who played Rob Bob. Now, many will know him, I think, Will and Grace.
Yeah, that's how I
was like his big breakout. But he's been on Boston Public, Boston Legal. He won an Emmy
on TV forever.
for Will and Grace in 2006. He's done episodes of Murphy Brown, Newhart, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Lois and Clark, Star Trek Voyager, Wings, Dharma and Greg, Ellen, Caroline in the City, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Nash Bridges, Ally McBeal, Judging Amy, The George Lopez Show. Recently. And
he was on Miami Alex show when he died. Recently.
Yes. So he passed in 2022 and he was on a show called Call Me Cat.
That's Miami Alex.
And I think he was a regular on that show.
He was. I was watching that.
Yeah.
It was very sad when they.
But just always like a character actor that when he comes on the screen, he like lights up the screen. It was always funny and he always got an applause. He always had great lines.
Yeah, so R.I.P. Leslie Jordan, wonderful actor, and it was such a delight to run into him in this episode.
Very funny, very short, 4'11".
4'11".
Yeah, that's short. It's not even. He didn't even have 5 feet.
That's an inch taller than our mother.
Oh my God, he was mom height.
Mom height.
What'd you think of this episode, sister?
I thought it was okay. I mean, I liked the physical, even though it wasn't them. I liked the physical gags. I mean, it's another one of these stories that we're like tolerating because we love the show, but the story like doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
I didn't buy the level of stakes from Larry's point of view.
He's just trying not to get fired.
Yeah, but he's also a reporter. That's not his only job. We resolved that already. but it seemed like so urgent. But if I was Larry, I'd be like, oh, it's your cartoon. You have to have it done. Whatever. If you can't do it, you deal with it. Like,
they're both fired though if they can't do it. Is what it seemed.
And I also didn't believe the stakes were strong enough for Balky to not be able to draw. Like there had to be more backstory about why he needs Dimitri there. Because this time Larry could have just taken an old cartoon and like copied it, because it already exists.
Just blown it up and changed the words.
Changed it, yeah. So I don't know. It seemed kind of all, and then like the whole why are Lydia and Gorpley affaring in the Chronicle building?
That don't make no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But somehow I did find this like kind of fun to watch.
I mean, I like the idea,
like the marble
the premise,
gag,
the marble gag. I like that Dimitri was like a big part of it.
Yeah.
And there was some stakes.
And
There's
Leslie
a ticking
Jordan.
clock, and then you have Leslie Jordan.
Yeah, but the stakes weren't believable, even within the context of this universe.
I'm an idiot because I'm like, I got to find out who took this stupid sheep, who took Dimitri. And I was like, why did I pick up that
Rob
it was
Bob.
Rob
Yeah.
Bob? Of course it was.
And like, then we never find out what even happens with Rob Bob's like.
Yeah, what was why was he
lawsuit.
suing? Why was it wrongful termination? What happened? He seems like a very nice, harmless individual. Why was he getting fired? Was
and why
Rob
does
Bob
he
right?
need $10 million? Like
$10,000.
$10,000. Yeah, I guess that's what. That's how much his salary was for the cartoon.
It was. It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay. Had some moments.
It wasn't like as angering as some past episodes have been, but it was nice. Yeah, it was
not offensive. All right, what did our listeners think there, sister?
Okay. First up, we have listener cousin Nicole Stoner, who writes, "This episode is a mixed bag for me."
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it is a good way. She says, "There's a great outtake of Mark doing the cousin Larry sheep bleeding." Oh, I didn't see that. I guess it was in bloopers. And I adore Leslie Jordan as much as everyone else, but didn't Balky just get that promotion a few episodes ago? Why the lack of mentioning Rob Bob back then? They didn't mention Rob Bob, but they mention
the kangaroo cowboy.
Kangaroo cowboy getting replaced.
Cowboy kangaroo, yes.
Cowboy kangaroo. She writes, also, did I miss something, or is Rob Bob's wrongful termination suit not resolved by the end of the episode?
It's not resolved.
It's not.
Why is he getting sued? Or why is he getting
care.
fired?
We're just happy Dimitri's back.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have listener cousin Pam Hitchcock, who writes, raise your hand if you knew Rob Bob Phillips took Dimitri. And she goes, I see 64, as in 64 people in our Facebook group. Yes, I knew it. Imran apparently didn't know it. I knew it I was like, it's Rob Bob.
It's very obvious.
She writes, Rob Bob thought the Chronicle would pay $10,000 to get Dimitri back. Was that the amount of the wrongful termination?
Sure, possibly.
It goes without saying that the late, great Leslie Jordan played Rob Bob. I can't give enough accolades to his career and him as a person.
He's great.
You knew Lydia and Gorbley would show up, and you knew Balky and Larry would end up on the marbles. You knew everything. But it had Leslie Jordan, and to paraphrase wildly, sometimes a part is greater than its whole. She gives the episode overall 7 Baba Stickies. That's pretty low on the negative scale. And Leslie Jordan 10 Bibby Bob.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Next up, we have listener cousin Jason Kurinko, who writes, I guess we were still riding high on the Home Alone antics more than a year after its release. Yeah, I mean, a year is nothing after. Because that marble stunt seemed very reminiscent of a Wet Bandits scene.
With the Wet Bandits, Marv. That's how they know.
Calling card.
It's our calling card. She'd leave a thing in there. Yeah, we're the Wet Bandits.
I wonder who's shorter, Joe Pesci or Leslie Jordan.
Oh, we have an answer. Pam Hitchcock says Leslie Jordan was 4'11" and Joe Pesci 5'3", towers over Leslie Jordan.
That's an inch on me, so Joe Pesci's tall as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
He writes, loved seeing him as Rob Bob, but I'm sad he wasn't a regular character. Did it seem like his kangaroo cowboy was also inspired by an actual stuffed toy? Because Balky says, say hi to kangaroo cowboy. Maybe. Yeah. He says, maybe I just like the idea that all the comic strips of the Chronicle are based on cherished real life toys.
It's a theme.
Boy, are we getting a lot of Dimitri-centered episodes lately. And then he Cousin Jason gives us his thoughts on the previous Dimitri's World episode. He said, we find out that Dimitri was made from the wool of the real Dimitri sheep who saved Balki's life. This made me tear up retroactively when I remembered the end of Citizenship Part 1 when Balki went back to Mypos and left Dimitri behind with Larry in Chicago. Yeah, I like this. This is a little summary of all what we know about Dimitri.
Yeah.
He says, how heartbreaking. I wish we would have known Dimitri's backstory before Balki left him with Larry. That would have been so much more emotional. I don't think the writers knew the backstory.
But they've been using Dimitri a lot this season.
Yeah.
There was
yeah,
that.
because they're running out.
They're like, what else can Dimitri do? I don't know. Let's figure we'll write something else.
Yes. And he says also it's very busy at the Chronicle at midnight.
Yes, it is.
And maybe Rob Bob wasn't the only employee fired because Jimmy, the security guard, was also not on
There's
duty.
no security guard. It's midnight.
It's a big building. He's probably upstairs somewhere.
They're employees. They get to come in. But I guess it's a 24-hour because they're printing papers.
The window. Yes. Yeah, but where is everyone else?
I don't know.
There's like certain people. Anyway. And finally, we have listener cousin Whitney Smith, who also kind of liked this episode. So yeah, it's a weird episode. It was like, it wasn't egregious, but it was like, you kind of like it. That's exactly.
At least, they put them in the thing where they have to do something or they're going to get fired, which kind of is the motivation. So,
and cousin Whitney notes that Leslie Jordan played a similar like thief role in his Pee-wee's Playhouse appearance.
Oh.
The episode was called Mystery, and he was new to the neighborhood and didn't have any friends and was stealing Pee-wee's things.
Oh,
so
my God.
He was
Leslie Jordan
typecast
also
as
always stealing things.
Stealing person.
Leslie Jordan was always just stealing things in shows.
Yeah, so thanks for that little tidbit, cousin Whitney. And she shared with us a photo, which we can share of.
It's in the Facebook group if you go.
In the group, okay.
But it's a shot
Leslie
of
Jordan.
Pee-wee and Leslie, and he's dressed like Pee-wee.
Yeah.
And he's it's very cute. Aww. This, I believe, is even before the Perfect Strangers appearance.
Nice.
Well,
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Don't be ridiculous was not said.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
Although we did have like a half dance of joy.
We did have a one-person dance of joy. And, of course, Dimitri's picture is there and Dimitri playing himself.
And a fake Dimitri.
Well, the stunt Dimitri the same Dimitri.
And stunt actors.
Dimitri played his own fake Dimitri. He's very versatile, this Dimitri. I bought it. I bought that wasn't the real Dimitri.
Synthetic.
And that when he got the real Dimitri, it was a completely different Dimitri.
Yeah.
I bought it, even though it's the same.
It's not.
There was synthetic. A stunt Dimitri and a real Dimitri in this episode.
Okay, let's talk about Perfect Strangers today, or PS Today, which is the segment of this podcast where we discuss if we can make this episode today. Would it still hold up? Would things have to change? Etc.
I don't know. It's kind of silly. How do you get across the thing where he needs the thing there to draw him?
The same. It's the same.
Doesn't make any sense.
I need it there.
Yeah. And not just a photo of Dimitri. I need actual.
Yeah, I
Dimitri.
think. Okay, I don't think that's a time thing. I think in both scenarios we needed more of the reasoning behind that to believe it more. Like now, and if you did it now,
you could do it.
It would
now.
have to be even stronger reasoning, like why you needed the actual thing, because you can just recreate the cartoons digitally now or whatever.
I mean, there's tons of plot holes, but you could still do the whole same thing now. The marbles thing would still work. Ransom notes are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
The marbles thing is so silly and timeless and slapsticky. That would always work. And
there's no Sunday magazine. I mean, do we have Sunday papers or Sunday magazine?
Is there even newspapers?
Obviously, it doesn't have to be the magazine, but it would be featured. It would be something prominent.
Did you hear about this? Kind of related, The Office new version of The Office reboot coming back?
No.
So it is the same people who made the first series, and the story is that documentary team has found a failing newspaper in the Midwest, and they're going to make a documentary about them. So whereas
in current time,
yes, now
like a tiny small
Domhnall
town.
Gleeson, this other girl, they've got a few people cast, same creators, And it's in the same universe as The Office. Maybe expect some cameos. So whereas originally it was a paper company in Scranton, like paper was a dying industry.
But if it's a small newspaper, we're already past that. They're not around
this
anymore.
is now a dying breed, is the
Like
newspaper.
it must be a
small
big
Midwest newspaper. Maybe it's a big one.
Those are the ones that are dying.
But that is the setup for the new Office, which I wonder if it might just be called The Office again.
It's going to be in like Springfield somewhere. Yeah.
So that's like a PS today. They're doing The Office now, even though it was only not that long ago, right? Like 20 years ago.
Yeah, so I would give it like on just the whole viability of it, it's a pretty high PS Today score. There wasn't anything super timely. The VHS tape, but we could do that with
he would send
Instagram
a video
or something.
Or he would send them a video on their phone, right? Like, here's the thing. I mean, the biggest leap is like cartoons. Like they make people still draw cartoons.
Do people still draw
Are there
cartoons?
still cartoons in the paper that people wait for? I don't know.
I mean, but if those things were givens, then it's a pretty decent PS Today score.
I give it a mid to high PS Today score.
Okay.
That's it for this week. Join us next week when the cousins go auctioneering.
Haven't they done this once before?
I feel like they've been at an auction.
Have done an auction.
And of course, Larry's probably going to bid on something he shouldn't be and get into all sorts of trouble. I thought they were in an auction. I can't remember. I feel like we've seen an auction type set, or was that a funeral? It looks very similar. It's like a reverse auction. It was a funeral. But that's it. In the meantime, another way you can support the show is by using our virtual tip jar. You can buy us a coffee. Visit our website and click that buy us a coffee button. And all proceeds go back into the web hosting and maintenance of this show and keeping the show going. And we're getting very close to the end. We need all the virtual coffee. What is this? We're past halfway season 7. So we essentially have like half and a quarter.
Every little bit helps us with encouragement to see this thing
Oh my
through.
God, we're going to see it through even though they're in a new workplace and a new house.
Before we start our Home Alone podcast.
The minute by minute Home Alone podcast. I guarantee
I'm sure it's done already.
Nah, I don't know about Home Alone. Well, I'll have to
Look
check.
it up.
And if it doesn't exist, that might have to
help us out.
exist.
What would we call our minute by minute Home Alone?
How many episodes
podcast?
would that be? I mean, we're not counting credits. This is 103 minutes.
Boy.
So you'd subtract maybe 10 minutes. That's still 90 plus episodes. I don't know if you minus the
shorter.
opening credits. We'd start where the story starts. I don't know. We'll have to think about that.
We could do the credits all in one.
No, you got to do the credits. But
okay. Let us know. How can you let us know? Well, you can find us everywhere online. The first place you can find us is at our website, danceofjoypod.com. From there, you can find out where to stream this podcast on all the different platforms. They're all listed there, and you can go to those platforms and like us and subscribe to us and leave us a rating and a review and spread the good word. You can also leave us a voice message from our website. There's a little button, you press it, and you can just talk to us. Tell us what you remember Leslie Jordan from. Which show do you associate him most with? Tell us what you thought of this episode or the next episode or Dimitri Sheep in general. You can also do that by sending us an email at danceofjoypod@gmail.com or connecting with us on any of our social media sites. Please come and join us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to have you as a follower and a friend of the show. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
always remember where you have set your marble trap. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself a couple of times. Even though people just walked through there and they were fine. No, the most important thing, listener, of course, is to share this show. Get it out there. Text it. Post it. Put it in a ransom note and send the ransom note via mail to your local government. No, this is all going back. And we'll share the show with a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way, and every little bit helps us continue this fun project. That is our show for today. Now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy. We do the dance of joy. Hey, 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 hey.